evening. So, my name is Nick George. I'm a junior here at Loyola. And currently I volunteer at Northeast Middle School with Soccer Without Borders. But I started as a service learner last semester. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about service learning experience. So I have an interesting story when it comes to volunteering at Loyola. It starts back my sophomore year in high school. So when I was a sophomore, I joined two organizations in my community. I joined the fire department and the first aid squad. I became an EMT, and ever since doing that, I've responded to various medical emergencies, like over 500 of them. And so I developed this idea that if I was going to help somebody, it was going to be in the back of an ambulance. Like, that's the only way that I could do anything that mattered. So when I came to Loyola, I wandered over to CCSJ and looked at the site list, because I wanted to continue doing that when I was in college. And I didn't see anything quite like that. There was Mount Washington, but I didn't know if that was for me. So I found a job volunteering at University of Maryland Shock Trauma Center, and that's in the Inner Harbor here. And I realized last semester that that's not the right idea. So I am a history minor, and I decided to take Dr. Schmidt's Conquest and Colonization class. And I'm not going to lie, when I took it, I did not know it was a service learning class. But when I heard that I didn't have to write the first paper, I did consider the service learning. But I thought to myself, I like writing papers, I'm kind of good at it, I don't have a lot of time. And I started asking myself a few questions. Was I going to make a difference? Was anything that I was going to do at Soccer Without Borders, was it going to really help anybody? I wasn't really sure of all this, but I found myself wandering up to the fourth floor programming room to attend the prep session, and I started volunteering at Soccer Without Borders. And it really was the service learning component that made the whole difference for me. So in my 5 years of EMT experience, I realized I haven't really reflected a lot on what I've done. We've talked about calls before and kind of debriefed, but we've never really looked into any deeper sort of meanings. And Dr. Schmidt had us write reflections every week. Naturally, my reflections started out pretty short and pretty bare. But every week she would email me back with a few more questions, kind of getting me to think a little more about what I was actually doing. She challenged me to see service learning in a way that I never had seen service before. So by the middle of the semester, I was taking all these thoughts home with me and pondering on them and kind of learning from them more than I ever had. And it kind of all came together for me one day when the Soccer Without Borders kids came to trick-or-treat here at Loyola. So when the kids got off the bus, I was paired up with Ahmed and Mohammed, two Iraqi refugee children. And I hadn't seen Mohammed since the first week of Soccer Without Borders. I had worked with him that first week. It was my first day. He had just come to the United States about 2 weeks before. He didn't speak any English. And there I was trying to explain to him what the seasons were. And that was pretty hard. It probably looked a little bit like interpretive dance or something. Nonetheless, so we walked around and we trick-or-treated all day. And when he came up to me, he said, hey, what's up? In perfect English. And I was so impressed at how much progress he had made in such a short period of time. And throughout the day, we developed a little tactic of trick-or-treating. So we had to explain to them kind of what trick-or-treating was, and they took it as stand each of them on one side. We'll ring the doorbell first, then stand on one side of the door and stand on the other side of the door, and then when the person opened the door, scare them. But it was awesome. They really enjoyed it, and we also talked about how to say thank you for things and how to ask for candy and kind of what Halloween was. And I kind of realized that I'm not sure what Halloween really is. But that's besides the point. So at the end of the day, Mohammed and Ahmed were getting on the bus, and I like to always give people a high five at the end of the day. I developed this tactic. A few teachers of mine have done it before, and I feel like it's a good physical sign of I'm with you, good job, And so I gave Muhammad his high five, and I started walking the other way, and he was tugging at my shirt. So I turned around, and he still wasn't perfect with English yet. And I could see he was trying to say something, but he was holding a handful of candy. And he couldn't really say what he was trying to say, so he just put the candy in my pocket, and he said, "It's yours." And I was kind of taken aback by that. You know, that was his way of saying thank you. It was a really marvelously universal way of thanks. And so as I was walking back to my dorm, I realized kind of what my point was, like what the point of it was. One doesn't need an MD or even an EMT to make a difference. The requirements are pretty simple. You just have to be present. This is a lesson that will surely come in handy should I become a doctor. We do need bedside manner. And one of my role models recently told me to be where your feet are. All too often we get caught up in our fast-paced lives and we forget to pay attention to what we're doing. Coach Alyssa at Soccer That Borders brought this idea full circle with me recently